Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started, officially opening the November 2025 Traffic and Parking Commission public meeting. We do have a Spanish interpreter with us here today if anybody needs it. And as a reminder, if you do wish to speak, I need you to sign in, and then when it's your turn, just come to the microphone and state your name and address. First up is the approval of the minutes from the October 7th, 2025 meeting. If anyone want to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the approval of the minutes from October 7th.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, we have a public hearing to receive comments regarding the International Street Safety Action Plan Vision Zero, Chelsea.
Good evening. Good evening. Hi, I'm Jason Schreiber. I'm with Consulting with Ben. I'm happy to take your questions. I'm going to talk briefly about what zero.
Switch out the mics.
Test it, 1, 2.
And I talked a little bit about what Vision Zero is, discuss briefly our process. We have a lot of public engagement, heard from a lot of citizens in Chelsea, and then summarize what the results of our analysis were, feedback from folks, and walk you through our recommendations just briefly. Just by way of background, Vision Zero is a sort of international goal focused on eliminating fatalities in traffic and transportation. In the United States has been supported very strongly by the federal government over the last several years through something they call the Safe Systems approach. It's very focused on providing resources to municipalities like Chelsea to be able to fix issues with traffic violence as much as possible. Your safety action plan that is now in draft final, which is an action submitted to USDOT, in accordance with the agreement for funding, is a summary of all that work and certainly the potential countermeasures that are recommended in the Chelsea project. The Safe Systems approach is actually a very fundamental part of how transportation safety is being done by municipalities across the United States. And what it really is focused on is the basic fact that people make mistakes and we're vulnerable. We're bags in water that above a certain speed don't survive very well in collisions. But also recognizing that we can make things safer in a variety of ways. That can be safer streets, but that can also be safer vehicles. It can definitely be how we interact, being safer in that. And the biggest factor other than being able to deal with crashes that may happen is reducing speeds. And that's a really critical part of the Safe Systems approach.
Give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. I think we're having a technical difficulty.
Test it, 1, 2.
All right, is this better? You're hoping. We're all hoping.
The most important part, public engagement.
Public engagement. It is good. We're now hearing the most important part. Everything else was just the early information. So public engagement was obviously focused on trying to share that information about what the Safe Systems approach is, but in particular the data that we had collected about crashes throughout the city, but especially to get information and feedback to guide the plan. We did all sorts of things like walk audits. We had a steering committee that we met with regularly. We also had some of these larger public events
We were up at the schools a few times, Meet the Machine event, Chelsea Day, lots and lots of interactions, hundreds of people being able to kind of touch and feel and get a sense of this. There was also an online survey that had nearly 200 responses that was open for a few months. That was advertised through businesses and certainly through the city's website and as many places as possible. And some of the key feedback from that survey was that the majority of people in the city have been touched by traffic violence, whether they were involved themselves or knew somebody who had been involved. And that truly says that this is something that everybody is aware of, and it is near and dear to many hearts. A lot of folks who responded to that survey also were asked where do they feel safe and where they don't feel safe. The survey was provided inputs in both English and Spanish. You could take either one depending on how you wanted to, but they were pretty much consistent regardless of how folks responded, which is that maybe they felt good waiting for the bus about half the time and a little less safe walking, but then it went down from there. Not so great driving, and definitely not so good on a bicycle, or definitely at the very bottom of that list in a wheelchair. Two-wheeled vehicles really did not fare well in terms of people's perception of safety, and the data actually does support that as well. And then what was very poignant is, as I said, with the Safe Systems approach, speed being the primary factor, people responding in the survey said that was the thing that was the most important factor that led to injury crashes in the city, followed very closely by distracted driving. As we all know, cell phone usage and talking during driving has been a problem. A lot of the other concerns about turning vehicles or enforcement and infrastructure were actually much lower on the concern list. So our solutions are actually tilted towards the idea of dealing with speeds. The places that we have to focus on in theory are many, but it's not actually every street in Chelsea, which is good. It turns out that 3/4 of all of the crashes that occur in Chelsea in the leftmost map are occurring on only 18% of all of the linear miles of street. That's only about 9 miles of street. And you can see the dots indicating some of the crashes, with the larger ones indicating where there have been fatalities, pedestrian and vehicular, or motorist or passenger. The middle map is what we call the risk-based network. It's larger because it's indicative of places that are similar to where crashes occurred. It could be a variety of factors, that it was near things like schools or bus stops, that the roads were similarly wide or similarly fast or had similar other conditions. And then lastly, on the right, in the survey, we asked people to point out specific locations, and many people did point out specific issues, and that added to the network. We combined all of these into what we call the Priority Investment Network. This is the network that, to the US DOT, are the streets that are most likely eligible for funding, though not exclusively. They expect that there is going to be a priority network in this plan where most of the funding requests to them would come from. And on that network is virtually all of the crash locations, but also it includes virtually all of the locations that we've recommended for actual physical improvement projects. There's many other recommendations, but there's 5 top safety locations shown in red that are really a high priority due to their crash characteristics and also their severe risk factors. But there's another 15 locations that we're recommending that improvements could happen, and we've provided conceptual designs for those as well. The green triangles are places that we already identified as problematic through the crash analysis. They're on the priority network, but they're places your staff is already addressing, projects that you already have underway or in the pipeline or in design, and so that's great. This map combines mostly the crashes, but it is influenced by the risk-based network as well as the community-based network. So we've been able to blend all that information and come up with this. We have one spot that is circled, which is by the high school on Carter Street. That's technically slightly off the network, but it's another location that we recommend improvement for. That's the off-ramp from southbound Route 1. So I'm going to talk through, just at a high level, the recommendations in the 4 categories: roadway design, sort of systemic overall policy, which is important, and then, of course, further continued outreach. One note: all these recommendations, while developed certainly in coordination with the community and many folks here, and certainly other staff, is hopefully a consensus type of product. We know that it isn't the end all. There's still going to be a process to implement recommendations, particularly when it comes to roadway design. That's still going to go through normal processes of review. So nothing in here is final and set in stone, but it is a heavy recommendation to be able to be implemented. The first set of recommendations, and I'll just do really one slide per grouping, is the roadway recommendations. And this is much more focused on improvements or guidance related to roadway and traffic safety. First off, those top 5 safety locations, there's another 15 we say is good, but those 5 really are things that are needing money, most likely. Needing curb reconstruction, signal reconstruction, some level of investment. Those are the ones that you've already put in an application for early funding from the DOT this past spring. There will be another round coming up this spring. We do not yet know about the first round. The next round, will be probably not announced for another year, but that's an opportunity to fund these projects. In the meantime, they can be designed more fully. We also recommend that the city is tracking and maintaining this information more regularly, maybe piloting some of these things. We had a few pop-up demonstration pilots in the city. You may have known we just installed with paint that lasted a few weeks. You might be able to do those a little bit more permanently with more permanent materials yourselves. You actually do a lot of those already with a lot of the crosswalk visibility work throughout the city, so that's a great thing. The NACTO guide is a guide that we use and most cities use for design. The National Association of City Traffic Officials guidance is sort of the next generation above and beyond what has been standard AASHTO guidance for years. And we really think that that should be adopted and formalized so that when you're talking about streets, you're talking about designing them in a safe and efficient manner for all modes of travel. So the systemic recommendations sort of build off of those physical ones, but take it to the next step in saying you will eventually not just look at these 20 locations we've talked about and others, but start thinking about actual corridors, in particular, how traffic signals and maybe pedestrian signals can be utilized to improve some of these corridors that are longer, that have conflict along them. At the same time, looking at many corridors in terms of their actual travel width. One of the number one things to reduce speed has to do with lane width and the perceived friction. And when lanes get to be above 10 feet wide, which many lanes in the city are 11, 12, 13, even 14 feet wide, the Mass Pike has lanes that are only 12 feet wide. So we really want to think about that narrowing. And then also focusing on crosswalks in general, being able to do the latest and best practices at crosswalks, also near schools, and eventually to have a set of tools that can be applied in both those places and elsewhere to do the thing that is best, calm traffic a little bit and reduce speeds. Second from last set of recommendations is policy. And first and foremost is a Vision Zero policy. This is something now that city staff are drafting with our input as much as possible to be able to bring to the council a formal policy that should be adapted by the end of the year. Is actually one of the expectations of the program in order to receive continued streams of funding. And that also is the way to set the bar for going forward. Many of the other programs here have to do with policies that encourage safety education, that encourage sharing of data. For instance, there's already some departmental crash data that's out there. Can that be explored and expanded? How can we maybe increase resources for traffic enforcement? Are there opportunities to continue to do updates for safety, both out on the web to be more visible with people and make that more institutionalized, but across departments? Across departments is really important. Having greater coordination, police, fire, public works, planning, to be able to talk about different problems that need to be addressed. And in fact, the third recommendation there is to actually set up sort of a rapid response team when there's a crash, to be able to at least have engineering and maybe public safety look at that, but then bring it to other departments and say, this is a systemic problem we need to address. We already know, having worked in other cities, that greater collaboration amongst departments can be hard, but it is often the best way to be able to address and tackle many of these problems with infrastructure and operations. And the last set of recommendations is about outreach. And it really has to do with making the citizens know that you're continuing to try to address these problems. Not only establishing a toolkit for that and having an ongoing Vision Zero task force, which is hopefully going to be enacted very shortly, building off of the task force that we interacted with during our study, but to actually have an annual campaign. So there's a website, folks know that you're continuing to do this, that there's a presence. We already have a bunch of tools associated with this and other materials that we're sharing with the city that were produced throughout this project, but there's other ways of doing this. And that's a really important part of Vision Zero, is education and maintaining momentum. Lastly, we are not going away while we've produced a draft plan that's going to be adopted and have a final report that needs to be submitted, let's say, by April. We know that the process of getting things implemented can be sticky. So we're here as a resource as well, in a whole second year of a contract, to be able to come in when needed. It's not tons of work on our part, but if you need us, we're here. And that really goes to city staff, particularly in terms of collaboration, in terms of needing resources to be able to implement a lot of these recommendations. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
No, I don't have any questions. Emily, I sat briefly with Sarah Hahn, and she went over the whole program with me, so I have no questions about it. She answered whatever I had back before.
Great.
So I'm all set.
Thank you. Anyone here from the public wish to comment on it? Hi, Counselor.
Hi, everyone. Lisa Santagate, 221 Shirtliff Street. It just so happened that the data you saw Jason share with people having experienced some traffic trauma, particularly as a witness, that has happened for me many, many times in Chelsea, and that prompted me to take advantage of an invitation that I had from Smart Growth America and Transportation for Mass to be part of a program called a Street Champion for elected officials. And it just so happened that that program, which was last fall for 6 months, was concurrent with the work that Jason and his team were doing. And I just wanted to say that it is fascinating, it is horrifying. This plan is amazing, and I can't endorse it enough. So I just wanted to come and say that.
Great. Thank you. Doesn't look like anybody else here from the public wishes to speak on it. I don't know if this is just something where we make a motion to.
Yeah, so I think the appropriate motion would be that this commission votes to approve the Vision Zero policy as described within the report and the presentation, and formally moves it to City Council for their adoption. That would be the motion.
I agree. I will second one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so next up, we have a communication of April 28, 2025 from Linda Dube requesting speed humps on Pine Street.
I know Emily is not here tonight. I don't know if Ben got any guidance from her before she was unable to attend. But we've been talking. She's been trying to find some alternative way or some alternative speed bump that the fire department can also get on board with. So that's kind of where we stood at the last meeting, and we kind of left it open for this meeting. I don't think she got to anything, which
Yeah,
is fine.
For items, no, this item and actually the next item as well, we're going to table those to the next meeting so that we can continue to do internal analysis and offer an appropriate recommendation.
That's fine. So I'll make a motion to table Pine Street's communication.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the next communication is September 4th.
Same.
Yep,
Yeah.
similarly motion to table to next meeting.
Sorry, a motion to table to the next meeting?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
Aye.
just for the public at home, the next item that we're tabling is a communication from Edwin Barrientos requesting to make Hawthorne Street a one-way from Marginal to Park Street and the Central Ave intersection. Table to next month.
Because you need to, like, study and research. Can't
Yeah.
Just can't make it one way
That's right.
like that.
That's right.
Next up, we have communication of September 29, 2025, from Steve Conti of Commonwealth Electrical Technologies requesting the approval of 4 electric vehicle charging installation projects at Highland Park, Crescent Ave, Cabbage Street, and Washington Ave.
So this consultant notified us tonight that they're not able to attend the meeting, so we're going to table this to December as well, and they will give us a presentation then.
Table. Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Table.
Aye.
Next up is a handicap application from October 7th, 2025, from Daisy Lazo of 122 Shirtliff Street.
I believe from Central down to Chester, there are no handicap signs on that section of the whole street. So I make a motion to accept the handicap application for Shirtliff Street.
Second? Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Next up is communication of October 16th, 2025, from Nia De Young of 175 Cottage Street requesting the installation of stop signs at the intersection of Willow and Cottage Street.
That's another one. She also reached out in terms of parking. You can see on the paperwork that she provided for us that they do park pretty close to the corners over there. DPW has been looking out about adding that for no parking here at a corner intersection because it probably is tough for a fire truck to make that turn, especially a plow truck in the winter. That would not stop the cars speeding down from there, so, but I'm more inclined to put that to a public hearing because coming down, there's 4 intersections right down Willow Street from Bellingham all the way down that there's no stop sign. So, you know, might be something that we can also maybe have Ben and his team maybe want to look at a broader study because like I said, going down those 4 blocks, Ben, it's pretty, there's no stop signs at all down there. They were coming off of each Chester and Cottage and Bellingham, but, you know, Bellingham's got a 4-way stop sign, but then the other intersections do not.
I would say that since the item is sort of singular in what it's requesting, I think that the implementation of no parking from here to corner of that signage would be a good first start. If there's a separate desire to bring a study forth, I think that would need to be a new item. But we'd be happy to do it internally through coordination with DPW.
Well, I mean, she's requesting for the stop signs. Like I said, initially, the DPW could put up, in conjunction with fire, about no parking here at a corner if the intersections are not able to make access with the emergency vehicles. But her motion is to put a stop sign there, so I think we have to vote either way on that.
Well, if you want to table to December and have us take a look at actually installing stop signs, we can have our on-call consultant look at the warrant and what's required for stop sign installation. So we can do a table to December.
Would 1
to
month
look
be
at
enough, or would you want to do it for longer than that? I know we got the other 2 issues, so I don't want to.
that. I think maybe buying us a little bit of time would be good. So to January would be.
Let's
ideal.
do that. Let's do that. So I'll make a motion to table it till the January meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is a handicap application, October 15th, 2025, from Anthony Villanueva of 69 Addison Street.
I believe this one, there previously, also correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was already a handicap sign there. Is he one that didn't get his paperwork properly, or was it a new application, do you know? It's a new application, but it's a previous existing spot, and it was, they were back to back, so 67 or 69 also has one. mean, looking at, like I said, we typically, in my tenure on this board, we haven't put handicap signs back to back and taken up 2 direct parking spots, but it doesn't mean you can't, so.
Yeah, I think there was a few in that area. at
Yeah,
least-
and this
at
one, he
least two.
also, unfortunately, he also states that there are off-street parking available to you, and he says yes.
Did you speak to him, Elsa, at all, knowing that he could park, and even though he may not have been approved for a space that they could share? I think that's been an issue that's,
Yeah, no, I don't recall.
Is this the one that says he has off-street parking?
Yeah, he did say right here that is off-street available to you, yes. Even though the property does not have a driveway. So I don't know, maybe he was confused by it, like Joe said, maybe he doesn't know that he can park there.
I can reach out.
I was gonna say, let's table it so we can reach out, because I think it's better clarification, then we can, and hear from him, obviously, if he can make it here. So I make a motion to table the application of the 69 Addison Street handicap sign.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the next step is a communication, October 24th, 2025, from Commissioner of Public Works Kate Foxland to provide an update on the downtown Broadway utility project.
I can read that, Joe. Chelsea DPW would like to thank all of our residents and businesses for their patience during the downtown Broadway utility improvement project. These were major upgrades to our water and sewer lines that will serve the community for decades to come. As the project wraps up, the contractor will complete paving in the most affected parts of the road, and DPW employees will reapply the painted crosswalks and other pavement markings. Please note that the right lane of Broadway continues to be a dedicated bike lane, and the markings will also be repainted. Over the next 12 months, the city will host several meetings about the upcoming Phase 2 project, which will implement the sidewalk, roadway, and traffic signal improvements starting in 2027. Please check our social media pages and website regularly for any announcements of these events.
Great. Thanks, Jim. No vote. Last up is communication, October 27th, 2025, from Project Manager Thomas L. Quattromani, Jr. of the MBTA to present the bus network redesign. Good evening.
Do you want me to sign in?
Could you sign in? Yeah, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Quattromani. I'm a project manager in the MBTA's bus project management office. Thank you for taking time in your schedule to allow me to come in and give you a brief overview of what the MBTA's bus network redesign is. I know quite a few have not heard much about that in the last year. And then a little bit more of an overview of what happened in Phase 1 and where we are today and how we're trying to move forward, okay? So the bus network redesign is a program where the MBTA is trying to put out 25% more service onto the roads. Basically, trying to ramp up the number of what we call key bus routes or frequent bus routes, where a bus comes by your stop every 15 minutes or less. And we're trying to do that through bus routes like the Route 104, which we have brought now through Chelsea, which in just 1 year, we're seeing about 1,300 boardings during the day, weekday, 1,000 on Saturday, 800 on Sunday, which for a route that's just changed is actually very, very good. These goals, the goals of these programs are basically to prioritize where riders like those in Chelsea who are transit dependent have better frequent buses in their neighborhoods, more all-day service, the creation of connections to new places like Assembly where there are a lot more jobs and a lot more retail opportunities, and to basically simplify the network so they understand it intuitively. And finally, as important is to make it more reliable and accessible to all. Being our Phase 1, again, it did see the Route 104 change course. It now goes from Malden Station over through Chelsea to the airport, and it's doing that in increments of 15 minutes or better as of now. We merged the 116 and 117 together, so the 116 would now be more reliable and be every 15 minutes or better. And though I know the 110 is just a little north of the border, we also made that a frequent route as well from Wellington to Wonderland. All those changes can tick off quite a few of the goals that I had just mentioned: more frequency, reliability, going to places people really do want to go, like the airport. To continue enhancing our efforts, we now have a new program that we're trying to develop called the Bus Network Redesign Route 112, 113, 114 package. In this package, the 112 will continue serving all points east of Quigley Hospital, Soldiers Home, through Market Basket up to Admirals Hill, then back down through Chelsea to Meridian Street, and finally to Maverick Station. Why are we doing that? Because the general public told us they want to go to Maverick Station. Route 112 will replace the service that is less frequent and has a much shorter span on the 114. Right now, the 114 roughly runs from 9:30 to 3. The 112 is going to run from 6 in the morning to 12 at night. So it's covering those areas, but it's encompassing a slightly bigger geography. Changes on the 112 and 114 basically were done in part to unlock the ability for us to introduce a brand new route, the 113. The 113 will be the first new bus route since 2019, which is really no small feat. Basically, this 113 was created, again, because of feedback from the community wanting to have better east-west connections and connections to places like Assembly Row, which is seeing significant job growth and retail expansion. Your residents want to get there, so we want to try to get them there with this one-seat ride. But it's a little more than that. We're also having the 113 go through Sullivan Station, and we're doing that purposefully because from Sullivan Station, they have far more connections and destinations they can reach than they would at Wellington. They can get to Charlestown, they can get to Harvard, they can get to LMA for their doctor's appointments and places like that. So it's with no small bit of planning that we've purposely designed the 113. If you don't mind me just. So, so while trying to implement these changes, several of the things that we try to do is to ensure that new routes, for example, have a place at the ends of their route where the bus can be blocked and the operator can go find a restroom and take a break and basically turn around and do the return trip. We also try to fix things that we know are already a problem. So if we know of a bus stop where the sidewalk is far less than 8 feet, we try to make it a little wider. If we find a place where we have a thing called bus stop failure, where more buses are showing up than buses can pull to the curb, we want to try to address those if we can while we're going through this, because we have the opportunity as we're going through this. Through monthly coordination meetings, the MBTA and Chelsea staff have been working together to coordinate the installation of proposed new landing pads at bus stops, tactile plates, potential shelters, things like that. And tonight, I'm here to present 3 stops to you where basically we need your approval to alleviate a problem, or where we just want to make you aware of a potential future need that we may have to come back to you for, so we don't catch you by surprise several months down the road. So on the table on page 4, you'll see I have three stops. The first 2, we're looking for votes of approval after I describe what we're trying to do there. And then finally, there's a bus stop on, well, a proposed bus stop on Cottage Street at Chelsea Busway that we want to just make you aware of, that we're looking at, okay? Now, before I go any further, are there any questions that you may have about bus network redesign or phase 1?
I have I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So you're saying both the 113 and 112 be 6 to 12 now? 6 in the morning to 12 at night?
Yes,
And what's the frequencies of both of these?
50 to 60 minutes.
So they will all be 15, okay, 15 minutes?
50
Frequency.
to 60 minutes.
Oh, 50 to 60?
Yes.
So not
Oh.
15 like the
Oh,
104?
no, I wish we could.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So they're
These,
gonna be less frequent, but there's gonna be more of them, okay.
Right,
That's gonna go
they'll
longer.
run longer during the day, but they will not be a frequent route like the 111 or 116.
About every
The
hour.
112 and 114, the 112 today is a 45-minute route. It's going to be stretched a little bit to 50 or so.
So,
And- go ahead.
yeah, because of the bridges, it actually extends much longer. And that's one of the reasons why it doesn't have a lot of riders, is because it takes too long. So this
Yeah.
is going to be another one where it's going to be up to 60 minutes. It's not going over the Chelsea Bridge, but it's going over the McArdle Bridge.
The 113 will end, we're hoping will end in the Eastern Ave busway,
Okay.
a bus station.
Oh,
excuse
so it
me.
won't cross the bridge?
Correct.
Okay. The other
And-
question is if, because before, I mean, I'm not, you can go from the blue line to the orange line. Now it sounds like we're going to have to get off the bus to get to the orange. Is there going to be transfers or anything like that, that people who pay cash and want to transfer from one bus to another, is that?
Well, if you're starting your journey on like the 113 and Eastern Ave, you could take the 113 all the way to the Orange Line. But along the way, there are different starting points from which, for example, if you're a Market Basket, you'd probably jump on the 104 or the new 113 to end up on the Orange Line.
So if you're on Admiral's Hill, you would take the 112.
So,
So that would go to the blue line, right?
correct. Now,
And so
if you were in
If
Admiral's,
you wanted to go to the orange line, you would have to go to Market Basket, switch. right?
correct.
Okay, so.
Un-
I guess the-
Unfortunately, the one-seat rides for people in Admiral's Hill and Soldiers Home will turn into two-seat rides.
So the question is there going to be, because like when I was a kid, you got a paper transfer and you didn't have to pay again.
Right.
Is there going to be something like that for people? Because a lot of people pay cash.
In Chelsea, a lot of people
Yeah.
do pay cash. Luckily, in Admiral's Hill and Soldiers Home, isn't as prevalent as the riders along Broadway, for example.
It's still a two-fare ride. essentially.
Yes, if they pay with cash.
Sorry, just wanted to, okay.
Yeah.
My question was, I mean, obviously, this is just a broad communication, but it does imply, it does have 2 or 3 different pieces into it. So I don't know if we can, not I don't know, but like voting on all of them to pass is not gonna, I mean, I don't see it gonna be happening, only because like the one issue you have is at Pearl Street. So it seems to me you just wanna widen the sidewalk there and clean up the
I was,
sidewalk a little bit.
I was going to wait until, to field any questions you had on bus network redesign, and then get into the specific asks for votes tonight, if you
Okay.
don't mind.
I'll have questions about that too.
No, I know, I'm just saying, like, so for instance, the first part of this, where the Pearl Street is, where it's showing that they want to do the sidewalk there, Pearl Street is part of this communication, so it's still something we have to vote on.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to give you a chance to comment,
That's
so I
fine.
wasn't talking too much.
That's fine, no, yeah, no, that's why I'm asking, before you got into the Broadway at Fourth intersection and talking about that, that's
Yeah.
why I wanted to bring up that. But in terms of, so there's already just, it's already a bus stop there anyways, you're not taking away any parking, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
actually,
so there's nothing in the beginning part, which is Pearl Street.
So my question though, isn't the city doing a redesign of this whole area? Or is that, am I incorrect on that? I mean, is this going to be part of that or, you know, like,
For Pearl Street?
yeah, for that whole, I thought there was going to be a whole redesign of that area.
Yeah, there's going to be a full depth reconstruction of Park and Pearl. But this is just like 2 to 3 foot bump out.
No, I understand that, but like, why put something in play if you're going to be redesigning it anyways, I guess is my question.
Just because that construction project will probably not commence for another 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that the buses can be as efficient as possible in that time frame.
Yeah, I just don't want to like duplicate efforts.
Oh, either do we, absolutely. We try to piggyback on as many municipal projects as possible and get them coordinated, so we're not ripping up something that was just put in. But It sounds like we're ready to go ahead and talk about the
Cor- Yeah,
specific
you
stops.
clarified, but on Pearl Street, I'm fine with that, yeah, you can go to the next, yeah.
So,
sure.
as you can see on page 4, I'm just giving you an aerial view of where the bus stop is. It's a little further down than the intersection itself. It's the 112 that would be serving there once we get this package going. As of right now, it's the 116 and 114 that service that stop. But they do it on a sidewalk that's about 7 feet wide, and that's good, that's not bad. But when we try to lower our wheelchair ramp, we need to make sure that there's at least 4 feet at the end of the ramp, which goes out 4 feet, so somebody can turn in their wheelchair. So because of that, I mean, it's a nice sidewalk. As you can see, it's clean and all that. On page 5, at the bottom of page 5, my label for that little blue line is missing, sorry. But I'm just showing you in an aerial view where we were hoping to bump that curb out, even if it's just a foot, which was really all we need to get that 8-foot depth that we really need. So on page 6, I'm just showing a graphic of what that would probably look like.
Do you know the width of that street right there? At Pearl and Essex, do you know the width of that lane?
Oh,
It's pretty wide, I'm pretty sure.
It is pretty wide,
Okay.
actually, yes.
Okay.
I had it off.
That's okay,
had it
I was just
up.
curious, I measured it years ago, I just don't remember. Okay, no big deal.
But the stat that there's 260 people getting on there is the one that sticks in my mind, because that's a
Yeah.
lot of people in that space.
It's a busy stop, we've seen it, yep.
So somebody with a wheelchair would have trouble there. So this is one place that we're hoping we can get a vote of approval so we can forward this to our design people and see if we can get this addressed while we're implementing this package. Oh, by the way, the implementation of this would probably happen more like August of 2026.
Okay.
Would you like to vote at the end or stop by stop?
I just have one more question.
Oh, sure,
So, like,
yeah.
the bus stop here, that's not interfere with the street, there's a street that goes where Roca, the Roca parking lot
Essex,
is?
no, it doesn't interfere.
Okay, so it's like ahead of it? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll wait till the very end, then we'll discuss and then make a motion.
Okay. All right, if you don't mind, I'll move to the next one. Before we go to the next one, though, I just want to talk about bus stop failure and what that means. I was looking for visuals of what it looks like at a bus stop when there's a bus already there and another one's coming by and there's no room for that bus to pull to the sidewalk. I think you've all...
If the other bus is there, it
If
happens
you've
quite
gone to
frequently on
Dunkin'
Broadway.
Donuts across the street, you know what it looks like.
Yeah.
And the buses everywhere. But what you're also seeing is buses letting people off and on in the street, which is a very unsafe condition. And it's inaccessible for anybody in a wheelchair who happens to be out up on that sidewalk or is in the bus and needs to then try to get on that sidewalk. So we really try to eliminate those when we can. So we have these things called birth failure rates, and how that gets calculated is by how often a bus comes by that stop and how often they stop at that stop, which is based off of their ridership. So a place like right out here in front where you have a ton of people getting on and off, a bus is stopping there almost all the time, consistently. So places like Broadway and 4th Street, right now in the AM peak, which is 6:30 to 9:30 thereabouts, 19% of the time, or about 19% of the time in an hour, there's more buses there than the stop can handle. So they're out in the general purpose lane blocking traffic. Just for reference, those other stops, we were thinking of trying to bring those to you today, but we had some more design ideas, so staff and I wanted to look at them some more and come up with something that we thought was palatable, that might have a chance of getting a yes. So we're hoping to maybe bring those in December. But for tonight rather, Broadway and 4th is actually a fairly straightforward situation. Right now, we have 75% design plans that have the traffic sign and pavement markings that are showing that stop as a stop that's a bump out, where basically the curb is pulled through the parking lane right up to the travel lane. So parking is eliminated there. And it's showing right now one bus berth where there's a front landing pad and a rear landing pad. But it's doing so kind of in an inefficient way, or inefficient use of that space between the crosswalk and the leftmost part of the busway. So if you turn to the next page, Just to illustrate the point, if I left the first bus the way they have it designed and put a berth right behind it for bus number 2, unfortunately, bus number 2 would partially be blocking the crosswalk right after it, and that's an unsafe condition that we would like to avoid. Easy fix here is basically just to take that bus stop sign with the bus routes on it and those 2 buses you see in that picture and move them up a mere 10, 15 feet. That's more than enough to allow bus number 1 and bus 2 to move past that crosswalk, have their front landing pads and rear landing pads in safe areas, and allow for 2 buses to service that stop. And in doing so, lower the bus stop failure rate to a much, much more acceptable level, where it'll be less common for you to see buses up in out in the street. So we're hoping for a vote of approval on 4th Street here, Broadway and 4th, excuse me. Any questions about that one?
So I'm visual, so you're going to be taking away parking?
Like I said, right now, this design, which is at the 75% design phase and is
Yeah.
moving towards 100%, has the curb being pulled up through the parking zone. So that design itself is eliminating quite a few stops right along there. But Ben, forgive me, this has already been worked through, right, this design? I thought it was.
Has it already been implemented?
No,
Or-
it hasn't been implemented.
It's
but
under review right now
under
for
review.
acquisition, but it's at 75%.
Right,
but
okay, so
I
it's
think
not a done deal, but it's being
The
developed.
very clear answer, which is in the packet, is that it says, would allow the second bus to service the stop without partially blocking the crosswalk with no loss of parking.
Okay.
So
With
there's
this
no loss
design.
of parking.
Yeah. There's no, I should say, further loss of parking if this design is approved.
Okay. So I think what's being stated is that the downtown Broadway plans, we're going to be doing surface work sometime next winter. Those plans have already been approved by this commission, right? And accepted all loss of parking along the corridor. This improvement from the MBTA is not resulting in any further
Okay.
loss of parking, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So negating this would not negate the eventual loss of parking that's going to be occurring when we actually do the surface work, which is an entirely separate Mass DOT funded effort that the city's overseeing. Does that make sense?
Thank you for helping me out there. Any other questions? Okay, the last one, Cottage Street and Chelsea Busway. This is just for your awareness at this point. The bus network redesign, Route 113, again, is the first bus route since 2019. Basically, will run from Assembly Road in Somerville through Sullivan, all the way basically to the Chelsea Busway, ending at the Eastern Ave bus station. It's our hope that we can have that bus turn around within the busway itself, so it does not have to go on the surface road and get potentially caught up in those bridge lifts. We're forwarding concept designs now. We've already gotten through Massport. We're now working with Interpark, I believe is the name, to try to persuade them that this is a plan that we can implement without negative operational impacts on their operations for the Massport shuttles and the SL3 and all that. And it turns out that Interpark actually has their own shuttle as well. Massport has given us the green light, and now we're working with the property owner of that parking garage to see if we can get them to come along as well. If for some reason, and they shouldn't, but if for some reason they put their foot down and said, no, we're not letting you bring the bulldozers in here to alter the busway in any way, even though it says it right here on your easement, you can do that, we need a plan B. At least, well, we need a plan B potentially temporarily or permanently. Temporarily, if, for example, our engineers say, this is going to take 1.5 years for us to do because that busway is only inactive for 2.5 hours a day. You can't do much with a backhoe in 2.5 hours. Okay, so it may take them a while. If we want to go live with that 113 service, we will need a temporary place to allow passengers to get off and get on. If Interpark comes back and says, no, sorry, you just cannot do this, no matter what you want to do, then we would need a permanent place for the 113 down at this end someplace. A place that looks like we might be able to work something out with your approval would be on Cottage Street. And that would be that last photo, the bottom of page 10, where if right now we could extend the sidewalk to the curb so we would have an 8-foot landing pad and a rear landing pad, the 113 could conceivably use that as a drop-off location, lay over there, and then we wouldn't like it, but we would send it down Eastern Avenue and around to pick up in the busway and then head back towards Assembly. To do that safely, though, Cottage Street would have to become a one-way operation. Right now, it's a two-way operation, and it's very narrow. A bus could conceivably get stuck if somebody was coming the other way, and that's something we wouldn't be able to handle in a safety-conscious way. So I bring that up just to let you know that, one, we've talked to Massport, we're now talking to the property owner of that busway. We're trying to get an agreement. I think we're going to get an agreement, but if we don't, we may be coming back in December or January saying, all right, we tried, can we consider something on Cottage Street to allow there to be a bus stop there so the 113 can go all the way to the eastern end of the Chelsea busway and utilize that facility. That's all I have for you today. I do plan to be back the next few meetings to present more stops to you as designs are reviewed and ideas are brought forward. Do you have any more questions about the first two or the last stop?
I have questions about the last stop.
Oh, sure.
Like I said, Broadway and Fourth is pretty cut, like Ben specified, that's okay. My issue probably is more that if you don't get that approval, like, I know we said it's not gonna go over the bridge, but unfortunately, you're gonna get caught up in the bridge traffic. So when the bridge traffic, and I know Ben's team is implementing, and I think we already approved some of it, signals coming out of there, which will help, but if the bridge is up, there's just not, they come out there with double deckers. They have twin buses that are just not, they just block the intersection and they just make it a mess over there. So unfortunately, even though you're not gonna be literally going over the bridge, traffic is gonna be affected for you to come in there and turn around. But you're basically saying is if they don't allow you to turn around in that lot, you're gonna continue down the green, how are you gonna get to Cottage Street? You're gonna come down the Greenway and take the right onto Cottage? Is that what you're trying to do?
At the moment, we have the 113 coming down Everett Ave, taking a left on Spruce, and from Spruce entering the busway.
Oh, okay.
And we had to do that because we have to, we can't cross a railroad track at less than a 90-degree angle. We wanted to go in by the Chelsea bus stop, but we can't go there because we would have to take an immediate left going over those tracks, and that wouldn't work. So, sorry, long-winded way of saying we're going down Spruce, getting into the busway off of Spruce and going all the way to the eastern end. Now, the designs we have actually show just enough space where we could have a turning lane in there without the Massport shuttles and the SL3s getting in the way. Could they still get in the way? Oh yeah, absolutely. They don't come in ones, they come in bunches. But one of the advantages of this is we also see this as a potential for the SL3 to short turn and go back, which isn't a concern right now, but if we get the SL3 to Sullivan, it becomes paramount to allow more buses to go that way if the bridge lifts block buses coming from South Station. So we're playing the what-ifs game a bit. We're trying to do some forward thinking for the SL3, but we're also trying to implement a route for the 113 that will be able to stay on schedule by staying off of Eastern Ave. That's our hope. But push comes to shove. If we have to, because we can't use the busway, that's what we're thinking of doing. Partly because, again, we want to put more service on that busway. It's an asset that Chelsea benefits greatly from us using. So
this is a stupid question. So why would they deny you for using that?
Well, one, they really can't, but what they'll probably do is put conditions on us, or try to put conditions on us, and if we say no, then they may try to litigate, and that would delay the thing so far that we'd probably give up and put the 113 somewhere else. But we have worked with city staff to identify where we could end the 113, and the preferred location is here. We do have runner-ups, but that's the place where we would get the biggest benefit for the 113, pulling people from as east in Chelsea as you can all the way over to Assembly. So that's why we're trying to go there. But I hope they don't say no.
And just remind me, so is the 113 also a 50 to 60-minute frequency?
So far, yes.
Okay. Because, I mean, because like what he was saying, that area is jammed. So 50 minutes, 60 minutes is probably going to be like an hour and a half. So-
Hopefully not that bad. If it stays in the busway, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
If it gets stuck, yeah,
Right.
there'll be issues.
I'm just afraid because the infrequency of the buses makes it less palatable for people to use. I mean, one of the reasons why people don't use the 112 is because
Yeah.
it's like you could be there in a half an hour, 3 hours,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, the convenient, like you said, you're looking to make it, that street being convenient for the bus, when it's actually, it's quite convenient for the cars, especially coming off Eastern Ave. There is the option of going Bellingham, but that just shows you how much traffic goes up off of Eastern Ave between Bellingham and Cottage Street. So, obviously, we wouldn't vote to make this a one-way tonight anyway, so it's not, if that had to be the option, but I don't think we'd even want to discuss that until you got approval or denial for turning around inside the park and go, to be
Yeah,
quite honest.
this was just the heads up that hopefully we
Okay.
don't have this conversation, but
Okay.
we might.
I have more issues, obviously, with that. Obviously, I hope you can get into there, and like Mara said, why would they turn you down? But then again, they have their own buses to worry about, so when they have, they might think of it that way, but,
One
I get
interesting-
what you're trying to do.
One interesting caveat, by going through this exercise, we did find out that Massport is planning to move their operation across the street by 2030. So
Yeah.
that is just a few years away,
Yeah.
and it would take all those blue buses out of there.
Yep.
The parking garage does have a shuttle, but it's nowhere near as frequent as those blue buses, which are
No,
showing up
Blue buses are
every
quite frequent, yeah.
5 to
Okay.
10 minutes. So with those out of there, there's all kinds of room to work. But that's a few years off.
Just, how come we don't have a subway yet? I think we need one. We have more ridership than some cities that have subways.
I believe it, and it's probably one of the reasons you're also one of the only communities north of Boston with 3 high-frequency routes.
Because it's needed.
Yes, it's needed.
Yeah.
It is
But
needed.
it's all Boston-centric, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate. And also, it doesn't service people, at certain hours and certain parts. So it can be difficult to get around.
Absolutely.
But I know you can't answer that, I'm just being,
So for tonight, the 2 items that were brought up on Pearl Street and Broadway at 4th. The ones that don't take parking away and ones that don't, I think it was 1 or 2.
Definitely, yeah, obviously the Pearl one, and like Ben said, the other one was already been approved to already take that, so we're not taking any existing ones on top of that. So I guess if we wanted to, we'd have to make some kind of motion to accept those parts of this, and just hold off on the
Cottage Street 1
the
and 2.
113.
Oh, yeah,
Technically,
that's just
hold off on the
that's just an
113
awareness piece.
until
That's-
confirmation of, because Cottage Street being a one-way would have to go to a public hearing.
Yes.
And even taking up that many spots, I would think we might want to hold that a public hearing as well. 1 or 2 spots, we've done that, typically, well, not 2 spots, we've done 1 spot. But once you start to get 3, 4, 5, 6 spots, we'd want the public to have some say. Unfortunately, there is a good-sized complex building down there, and they have off-street parking, but it doesn't fit everybody. So they have to park on the streets, and that neighborhood is just really congested. Some of the cars that park down on that bottom of Cottage in Bellingham live all the way at the top of the hill, and they have to walk down because of the parking crunch we have around here. So but that's a different story for a different day. But I would make a motion to accept the first and second parts of this proposal, and just table the 3rd section of it, if that's what we can do, Elsa. Is that something we can?
Second? Second? All in favor for that?
Aye.
Great.
Are we tabling or moving into a public hearing?
No, you're
No.
gonna table the third section because he's not 100% sure
Got it.
if
So
he has approval yet.
Can we just make the motion more descriptive so that it runs easily for Elsa in the record? So it's motion to approve a curb extension at Pearl Street and motion to approve the movement of a sign at Fourth at Broadway per discretion of the MBTA, per as instructed in the packet.
Precisely.
And the rest we don't need to address because they'll come back to us as a separate agenda.
That's
item.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks,
Great.
Ben.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Thomas.
So there are no other items left on this month's agenda. Thank you all for attending. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.